When thinking about your voice strategy, you're going to want to have a short-term plan and a long-term plan. We spoke to Dave Isbitsky, the chief evangelist at Amazon Alexa, on the VUX World podcast last week, and that was exactly his words. That's how Amazon are advising brands. Have a short-term plan and have a long-term plan. In the short term, you want to be thinking about what kind of things might you be able to experiment with on voice assistant platforms that would add value to your end users and your target market whilst contributing to the business and giving you the opportunity to learn about how your customers are interacting with your business via their voice and conversational channels. And it's not a short thing, it's not something that's really quick. You don't want to just leap into implementing an Alexa skill, for example. You're going to want to go through the same kind of thing that you go through with every other project. So you're going to want to start out in the discovery phase. You're going to want to figure out who your users are, what they're currently using these platforms for, what kind of things would add value to them, how will they be communicating with your business, what does your brand need to sound like, and all the process you're going through in terms of prototyping, testing, user research. You might go through some sonic branding or something like that, and then development. All of this kind of stuff takes time. Even the ideation, when you're thinking about what might be a good idea to start out with, you've got, as soon as you start thinking about it, you'll have more ideas than you possibly ever could implement. So it's about trying to pick the ones that have value and then go ahead and test those. But this, again, it's not a short process. Creating an Alexa skill, I know there's lots of blueprints out there and there's lots of people who've done lots of similar things, but more often than not, it's actually a fairly time-consuming process. So the short term, you want to just be trying to get yourself in a position where you can crawl, which essentially is probably just going to be one use case or a small number of use cases, but probably one that adds value to your end user and adds value to the business. And as you go through that, you're going to have a roadmap, and the roadmap's probably going to rely on probably things that already you can do technically. It's just it will take a bit of time to implement. So in the short-term roadmap, in the next kind of 6 to 12 months, you're going to want to have a feature list that you're going to try and implement more or less immediately. But then on the long term, there's going to be things that you might want to do that the current technology doesn't actually cater for. And if you start moving away from, the more you kind of thinking advances on it, and the more the business starts understanding and embracing voice, you'll start moving away from a platform approach in terms of developing for Alexa and Google Assistant, and you'll start moving towards an interface approach where you want voice as an interface and as an access point to your business in every possible channel and every possible surface that your customers have access to. So this is all part of the evolution of voice, and that kind of stuff will take time as well, because voice isn't the same as a website or as a graphical user interface. It's not the same as a screen, essentially, and the organization will probably take some time to get its head around how does it organize itself, what kind of resources does it need, what skills does it need, and what tools does it need in order to create itself the foundations of a team or department or a system that will allow you to embrace voice within the organization and put voice everywhere as an interface, as opposed to developing on a platform. So the short term, start out with a use case that is going to add value to your user and add value to the business. Learn from that, but have your mind on the long term, which is moving through the motions of getting yourself in a position where you can have voice as an interface to your brand.